a mob like that.
What do you think they got out of it? Why did they do it?
Motive, I guess, satisfaction is all I can figure it out. I don't know what it was.
Satisfaction.
I reckon that was it.
This is a clip from a 60 Minutes report that aired on December 11th, 1983, hosted by Ed Bradley. It's one of the first times the story of the Rosewood Massacre was ever brought to a national audience. In this clip, Fred Kirkland talks about what he saw as the mob grew into the thousands at Rosewood. He was a teenager when he watched the mob massacre the black residents of the town. With law enforcement gone, there was nothing standing between that mob and the people of Rosewood.
They went wild. There was 1,000 to 1,500 people there by that time when they're coming in from every direction. It was crazy. They give the high sheriff and the deputies 5 minutes to get out of sight, not come back.
They told the sheriff and the deputy to get out of town and not come back?
Get out of there. Give them 5 minutes to get out of sight.
And what did the sheriff and the deputy do?
They left there. Then they went to burning houses, killing people. You never seen.
Yeah, Sunday morning they came through here, setting houses on fire. And as each one ran out, they'd shoot them, kill them. And there was a colored woman right here, lived just across here in the woods from me. And her name was Lexi Gordon. And she was sick. She had typhoid fever. And when she told her, the ones that was staying there with her, for them to go ahead and get away if they could, well, she just take whatever come, Well, naturally, when they set the house afire, she ran out towards the back. And she had a back door, Johnny, out there. And so she made for it. And they shot her before she got there.
But she had nothing to
do with it at all, whatever. And, it was away with a lot of them, you see. That was the reason it was such a situation that we just couldn't understand. It was just a mad bunch of men come in here.
"94 black men and the leg bone of a black woman, now known as the Sugarland 95.
The youngest prisoner found in an unmarked grave, just 13 years old.
A state-sanctioned prison camp.
Freed slaves incarcerated and forced to work for the state.
Many would not survive the intense labor.
They died from diseases, gunshot wounds, malnutrition. They were underfed and overworked.
The men worked and died on the Bullhead convict labor camp.
So many companies profited off forced labor.
The city of Sugarland is built on this labor.
There's some ugly history behind how Sugarland came about.
Part of a horrific and state-sanctioned prison labor system, decades after emancipation.
The state's brutal convict leasing program.
Convict leasing was continued slavery under a different name.
Literally labored to death.
History that needs to be told.
What happened here was a tragedy.
In 2018, construction crews working in Sugarland, Texas, were preparing the site for a new school when they came across something unexpected. At first, it looked like debris in the soil, but after taking a closer look, it became clear that it was a human bone. Work stopped, and the site was examined more carefully. As digging continued, more remains were found. What initially appeared to be an isolated discovery quickly turned into something much larger. Over the following weeks, crews and archaeologists uncovered dozens of graves. By the end of the excavation, 95 individuals had been found buried in unmarked graves beneath the site. What they had uncovered wasn't just a forgotten cemetery. It was evidence of a system built to replace slavery. One where people could be arrested for almost anything, forced into labor, and thrown away if they didn't survive. Sugarland is located just outside of Houston and is known today as a prosperous and carefully planned suburban city. But the land it sits on has a much older history, one tied to a system that emerged immediately after the abolition of slavery. When the 13th Amendment was ratified in 1865, it prohibited slavery and involuntary servitude, but included an exception allowing both as punishment for a crime. That exception became the legal foundation for what was known as convict leasing. Under this system, individuals, disproportionately black men, were arrested for minor or loosely defined offenses. These arrests were often driven by laws known as black codes, passed across the South after the Civil War.
They convict them of crimes that they have created, in many cases, to criminalize black behavior.
For instance, if they were talking too loud, if they did not move off the sidewalk when a white woman was passing by.
There are lots and lots of people that don't have any idea that this was happening, that the city of Sugarland is built on this labor.
They were designed to control newly freed black citizens, and in practice, they made it easy to criminalize everyday life. A person could be arrested for not having proof of employment, for leaving a job without permission, for gathering in public spaces, or simply for being labeled idle or disorderly. In some cases, even children were arrested under vagrancy laws and forced into labor. Once convicted, individuals were leased to private businesses and forced to work. In some ways, this system was even more brutal than slavery.
The aftermath of slavery was in some ways worse than slavery itself. Unlike before, when someone who owned you, driving you too hard was counterproductive because you would lose your investment.
In Fort Bend County, two plantation owners, Edward H. Cunningham and Littleberry A. Ellis, leased prisoners from the state to work their sugar plantations. They paid just over $3 a month per person. For that price, they got a labor force with no rights, no protections, and no one coming to check on them. Cunningham and Ellis were both Confederate veterans. After the war, they purchased one of the last remaining sugar plantations in the region and built it into a large-scale operation, using convict labor as its foundation. That operation would eventually become the Imperial Sugar Company. And when the ownership changed hands, the convict leasing didn't stop. Prison records, legislative investigations, and court transcripts show that Imperial Sugar was still leasing convicts on that same plantation through at least 1912. On top of that, when Ellis's portion of the land was sold, the prison system was contractually locked into selling all the sugarcane harvested by convicts to Imperial Sugar at a fixed price for 10 years. This wasn't a company that inherited land with an ugly past. Imperial Sugar was built on convict labor, profited from it directly, and kept it going under its own name. The site where the remains were later found was part of one of these camps that had become known across the region as the hellhole on the Brazos. The work was cutting and processing sugarcane in extreme Texas heat, with minimal food, little rest, and almost no medical care. Historical accounts describe men collapsing from exhaustion. Some were beaten, some were shot. Estimates suggest life expectancy in these camps could be less than 2 years. Forensic analysis confirmed what the historical record already suggested. The remains showed long-term physical stress, poorly healed injuries, and malnutrition. In several cases, buckshot was still embedded in the bones. These people weren't buried with names. They were buried with chains. The discovery shocked a lot of people, but one man had been trying to tell them for nearly 20 years. For almost 2 decades before construction ever broke ground, a man named Reginald Moore had been telling anyone who would listen that these graves were there. Moore was a historian and former corrections officer. He had spent years researching the land, and he knew what it had been used for. He went to local officials. He went to school boards. He showed up to public meetings. He was dismissed. Moore also pushed for formal accountability. He called on the state of Texas, the city of Sugarland, and Imperial Sugar Company to acknowledge their roles in the convict leasing system. All three had played a part. All three had profited. None of them apologized. The city's position was that Sugar Land wasn't incorporated until 1959, long after convict leasing had ended. In 2017, the city manager went further, claiming there wasn't a single facility, road, or improvement in Sugar Land that could be traced back to convict leasing or slavery. The entire city is named after the sugar those prisoners were forced to produce. When construction started on the school site, Moore tried again. He went directly to the people breaking ground, warning them about what was underneath. In 2018, when the remains were uncovered, everything Moore had said was confirmed. He died 2 years later. The 95 individuals were reinterred at the same site, which was designated a historic cemetery. It sits behind a school now. Every grave is marked the same way, unknown, followed by a number. Most of them have never been identified. The system that put them there was legal. The company that profited from their labor still exists. And for over a century, they were buried beneath a place that had no intention of remembering them.
Pure insanity. Shalom. Call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Yahweh Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for pushing 100% truth. We rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect that have been scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom. This is Matazal Lacham. And I was just watching some of the videos of the atrocities that these Edomite Caucasian devils, these troglodytes, these cavemen, these cave dwellers, these Caucasians, that's by definition, Caucasian means cave dweller, right? You know, the things and evil and wickedness that they've done to us as a people. And this information is just being spread all over the different platforms of the internet. Every day, something is being uncovered about these goddamn devils, man. Okay? You have eyewitnesses of the accounts of the wickedness that these devils have done by rape, murder, and pillage, theft. Rosewood, one of the cities, the small townships, after the so-called Emancipation Proclamation was signed and the 40 acres and a mule was given to the few before Abraham Lincoln's death. Okay, because soon after he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, as a celebration, they shot him in the back of the fucking head. I'm like, wow. These Edomite devils are lazy, good for nothing, and ain't worth a goddamn plug nickel. Okay? Now, when Jacob's trouble jumps off, okay, because they're already feeling everything that happened to us for 500 years, being oppressed by taxes, all this other shit. They feel it now. They see where we're coming from. Okay? They see it. Okay? And there's nothing they can do about it. It's over with pretty much. Hold on. Salakia for that. Anyway, these devils are finished, man. And what are they going to do during the time when the lights go out? When the power is shut off? There's not going to be any morals. There's not going to be any morality, sense of morality, being white privilege. Oh, I'm better than you. Fuck that. These motherfuckers are going to revert to savagery. As an example, okay, of the depression, right? That was coming, the stock market crash, all of that shit. This is the characteristics and behaviors of the Edomite Caucasians, man. They rape, murder, pillage. They steal natural resources. They destroy your city, claim it's theirs. They bury it underwater like Lake Lanier. Lake Lanier in Michigan was a city. It was a small township. Okay? I forgot the name of the small township that was there, or what the name of it was. As a matter of fact, and then we'll go back to Nahum. All right, let me type this in. Lake Lanier in Georgia history. Right? Lake Lanier was created in the 1950s by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to provide water flood control and power to Georgia. Built over formerly inhabited areas. The lake's creation involved purchasing 56,000 acres of land. They didn't purchase anything. They stole it and killed the residents and displaced the residents, right? Who were the residents? Because if they were so-called white people, they wouldn't be displaced, right? They would find some place for them to go. These individuals were displaced. It is known for its high number of fatalities, submerged structures, and the displacement of a black community in 1912. Right? That's crazy, man. Displaced communities in history, submerged features. During its creation, the rising waters flooded over 20 cemeteries, farms, homes, and businesses. Oscarville, that's the name of the place, Oscarville, Georgia. Oscarville and racial cleansing. Racial cleansing now, hold on. In 1912, following the alleged assault of a white woman, alleged. Okay, let's get the definition on that word. Alleged, motherfuckers. Web search. Alleged. Alleged is an adjective used to describe something claimed to be true or an action, often illegal, accused of happening. An illegal action without yet having proof. Okay? Illegal. See, that's the wickedness. That's what I'm talking about, man. Goddamn wicked devils, man. Goddamn animals, boy. Wow. Okay, let's go back down here. Oscarville and racial cleansing. In 1912, following the alleged assault of a white woman, so-called white, an Edomite, Caucasian trash, racial violence driven by white mobs, by white trash, troglodyte cavemen, resulted in the expulsion of black residents, so-called black, who are Israelites, from the area formerly known as Oscarville. The subsequent creation of the lake submerged much of this area, fueling local legends and stories of the lake being haunted. Okay? See? And then this video explains the history of the black town Oscarville that was submerged by Lake Lanier. Let's watch it.
Want free Domino's slice sauce? Want free Domino's slice sauce? Just order any handmade pan or Parmesan stuffed crust pizza.
Why wait? Start losing weight today with medical weight loss from Enhanced Wellness. Weeks later, we found a family who could trace back their roots 4 generations. They shared with us stories that were handed down about what the all-black town was like, including the night that led to its destruction. It was set on fire by night riders after they say a white woman was raped. Then later, it was covered by the body of water we now know as Lake Lanier. May Crow was buried here at this Gainesville cemetery, but the trail of destruction following her death stretches into the land surrounding Forsyth County, buried beneath these waves of Lake Lanier, where in 1912, nearly every black resident was forced out. That includes people living in an old black town called Oscarville. The community was formed in the late 1800s during the Reconstruction era.
There was a very strong community feeling among the blacks. About 300 children that went to some of the schools that were the black schools, and it was closely connected to the churches.
Georgia history teacher Lisa Crosby says Oscarville was a thriving black community, full of carpenters, blacksmiths, and bricklayers, but farming was the top trade.
So they really had kind of a miraculous farming growth here while the rest of the state was really struggling.
But then residents were abruptly forced off their land.
Well, the flashpoint, I think, is 1912.
This takes us back to the death of May Crow. The 19-year-old white woman was found dead in the woods near Oscarville, presumably after being raped.
Typically, the answer to white girls being raped was go to the black community and just start blaming people.
By nightfall, terror began to reign over Oscarville.
So from there, the rage and hatred in the community, mobs got together and they were called night riders, and they were riding throughout Oscarville and driving out the black community.
And the night turned deadly. You know, they were waking up by fires outside, fire bombs thrown in the church.
Filmmaker Bob Mackey recaptures those horrific nights in an upcoming television series.
Anytime anything happened, guess where everyone would go? To the church. Well, they attacked the church. People were hung, lynched.
Mackey's series features stories of direct descendants like George Rucker, who can trace his family back 4 generations to Oscarville. He tells the story of his great-grandfather, Bert Oliver, and the entire family being forced off their land.
Night riders came through. They had to leave everything. The main thing they left was property, and my grandfather had 100 acres.
Rucker says many relatives died as they tried to flee.
So when they got to the Chattahoochee River, from what I understand, they were told, when the mob got up on the bridge, they were told that they either had to swim or drown. Most of them didn't make it. My grandfather, one of them that did make it, he lost some brothers and sisters.
He says his relatives who survived settled in Gainesville.
From what my mother told me, Bert Oliver, he would sit and tell her this story, and he would just sit and cry.
Crosby says whites in the area took over the remaining properties. She says Oscarville farmers were specifically skilled in raising poultry, which set the pace for Gainesville eventually becoming poultry capital of the world.
You have a farm already going, and you had free land, so you just take it.
Rucker says his great-grandfather married his second wife, Beulah, and they built this school that still stands in Gainesville today. By the late 1950s, the Beaufort Dam was built and Lake Lanier was formed, covering up Oscarville and swallowing most of its history. Many believe Lake Lanier is haunted because of the high number of drownings. We spoke to officials who tell us because there is an entire town that includes structures and even forest areas with trees that are 60 feet tall, it makes it more difficult to navigate through, and someone can easily become trapped in debris, leading them to drowning. We have so much more on this story on our website.
Story, all new at 5:30. We are taking a closer look at an all-black town in Georgia called Oscarville.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about this on social media for the last few years, and if you haven't heard of it, it's probably because it no longer exists. It's buried under Lake Lanier. 11 Alive's Latasha Gibbons has more.
When we started working on this story, we set up...
Okay, because I'm finna start over. All right, so they also did the same thing in New York.
out to track down descendants of Oscar.
Okay. Right? Reputation and legacy. Deadly history. Lake Lanier has a reputation for being one of the deadliest in the U.S., with hundreds of deaths from swimming, boating, and drowning incidents. Okay? See? So, and then I think there was another one concerning Central Park, New York. What was it? What was the name of that town in Central Park? I'll just type it in. The town buried under Central Park, New York. Did I spell it right? Or right? Seneca Village, that's the name of it. I couldn't remember what the name of it was for saving my life, right? Seneca Village was a 19th century predominantly African American community located in what is now called Central Park. specifically between 82nd and 89th Streets and 7th and 8th Avenues. Established in 1825, this autonomous middle-class village thrived with over 50 homes, churches, and a school before being destroyed in 1857 through eminent domain to create the park. Eminent domain. That's manifest destiny in the name of evangelical Christianity and murder through genocide. That's what eminent domain is at the end of the fucking day. Okay? They just had to rename it into something that is more appealing to human nature for the people's acceptance of the extermination of an indigenous population of people for no reason. That's who these devils are. They're the fucking devil. Okay? Okay, demographics. By 1855, it was home to roughly 225 residents, consisting of 2/3 African Americans and 1/3 Irish immigrants, right? Property ownership. Approximately half of the residents owned their own homes, offering a stable alternative to downtown Manhattan living. Village life. Evidence suggests a well-established community with 3 churches, a school, and a natural spring. Destruction and legacy. The city demolished the village in 1857, forcing residents to relocate. Archaeologists have since uncovered remnants, including pottery and shoe parts, and a historical marker is located in the park to commemorate it. Right? These archaeologists, I'm sure they found bones too. I'm positive about that. But see, this is what I mean about Esau, Edom being the devil the Bible speaks of. You know? I mean, that's who these people are. Okay? Nahum chapter 3 verse 1. Woe to the bloody city, it is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. The prey being the Israelites. How can we depart? These motherfuckers come and use eminent domain and manifest destiny and rape, murder, and pillage and destroy entire cities, drown them underwater, burn them to the fucking ground. I didn't even go into Tulsa, Oklahoma, did I? Okay? The Most High has not forgotten. The Most High does not forget. The Most High Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai does not need sleep. These Edomite devils think that he's some, along with our people, 2/3 of our people that are destined for destruction, they believe that he's just some random sky daddy, some ethereal, invisible being that you can't see, that you believe in. Right? That they don't have any belief or faith in the Most High. And 2/3 of our people are infected with this madness in their minds. Right? Nahum chapter 3, verse 4, because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot, America, Babylon the Great, where all the nations of the world have drank of the wine of her fornication, meaning that they were doing underhanded dealings underneath the table and buying and selling, okay, selling a boy for a harlot, a girl for wine, okay, and selling us at cost through, it was called slavery then, but today they call it human trafficking. Okay? So these devils are guilty, and not only them, but also the heathen nations were also complicit in our destruction. Now all of the nations are pissed off. They're mad. They're upset about the fact that they've been betrayed. Right? Remember, these Edomite devils can't be trusted. Okay? I mean, I don't understand why the people still believe these motherfuckers. They still believe that these Edomite devils can be trusted. Psalms chapter 55, verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. All of these nations, okay, have broken covenants with them by these Edomite Caucasians that rule the world. Okay? By bully, by eminent domain, by manifest destiny, by genocide, right? This is what they do. I mean, that's the characteristics of an Amalekite. That's the characteristics of Edomites, right? The thief cometh not before to steal, kill, and to destroy, right? Verse 21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Okay? This is the wickedness of these devils, man. They can't be changed. You can't change these animals. What the fuck? Okay? The Most High has not forgotten what these devils have done to his people, man. Okay? Job chapter 18, verse 10. The snare is laid for him in the ground, and a trap for him in the way. Verse 11. Terrors shall make him afraid on every side, and shall drive him to his feet. And that's what's happening right now. The terror of the death or the disannulment of white privilege and white supremacy. Without it, these Edomites can't survive off the land. They're going to revert back to savagery. I just gave you 3 or 4 different examples of the savagery of these devils when white privilege and white supremacy no longer applies. They'll come straight to the black and Latino neighborhoods and steal their natural resources. When the lights go out, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to revert back to type. This is what they do, man. We have to be prepared this time. Now, not carnally with guns and weapons, but spiritually through faith and supplication. That's the reason why we try to do everything we can with these video epistles to try to persuade our people to repentance, to turn back, in order to get the blood off our hands. Like it says in Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 17. Son of man, I've made thee a watchman to the house of Israel. Give them warning from me. And this is a warning. These devils, when the lights go out, that's exactly what they're doing. They're coming straight down your street. Okay? They're just pissed off at the fact that they've been uncovered. Right? Let's go to over here to Isaiah chapter 25, verse 7. Right? Where was that? And he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. That veil that is spread over all nations and the covering cast over all people is that, they've been whitewashing history. And the truth is coming out. So their veil is being lifted. Their skirt is being lifted. You see? Going back to Nahum, chapter 3, verse 4. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms and of the well-favored harlot, the mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations through her whoredoms and families through her witchcrafts, right? Behold, I am against thee, saith the Lord of hosts, the Lord of heaven's armies, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, whom the heathen nations call Alasajah, he demon-like power, right? And I will discover thy skirts upon thy face, and I will show the nations thy nakedness, and the kingdoms thy shame. Right? And I will cast abominable filth upon thee. Is it not being cast upon them? Right? This abominable filth in Epstein files, eating blood, drinking blood, eating children. Right? And make thee vile, and will set thee as a gazing stock. Right? This is what the Most High has done. Now, if we go over here to Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33, it states, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. We tried to come away from white privilege and white supremacy. We tried to set up our own cities, our own towns, our own townships. You just saw proof of that. We tried to do that, to come away from these motherfuckers. Okay? And deal with our own people. What did they do? They came and destroyed it. Tulsa, Oklahoma was one of the most prominent cities in America. Ran by so-called black people? Impossible. Let's burn it down. Let's blow it up. Let's tell a goddamn lie. Right? Alleged. The white woman was alleged raped. Right? In the forest. Allegedly by black people. That's alleged. Okay? That's an illegal. Right? We went into the definition of allegedly. Right? Okay? Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. And the inhabitants of Babylon are these Americans, white privilege, white supremacy. They're disquieted. They are no longer satisfied. You can see on these TikTok videos they don't understand what's going on. White privilege and white supremacy isn't working. Right? Okay, let's go over here to Ecclesiasticus chapter 41, verse 5. Right? The children of sinners are abominable children, and they that are conversant in the dwelling of the ungodly. The inheritance of sinners' children. Salakia. Damn it. Hold on. Salakia, where was I at? Okay, boom. Right. Salakia. Ecclesiasticus chapter 41, verse 6. The inheritance of sinners' children shall perish. Right? And their prosperity shall have a perpetual reproach. The children will complain of an ungodly father because they shall be reproached for his sake. And that's exactly what these devils are going through right now. Right? The inhabitants of Babylon are being disquieted because they're being reproached, because the skirt has been lifted. The nations have seen the shame and wickedness that Edom, the so-called white man, did in order to get on top. Okay? It's been revealed. Tom, Dick, and Harry, Sam Six-Pack, Joe Six-Pack, Sam Sausage, Willie Lunchmeat knows what these devils have done now. Everywhere, on every continent. So everybody is waking the fuck up out of the stupor of the dream, the American fucking dream. Everybody's waking up from the fucking nightmare that is the so-called American dream on a global scale. Democracy, the lie that was told, right? Which is the wine of the cup of the fornication that these nations have drank, right? See? So, and that's basically what it is. Now, if I go over here to the last verse I'm going to go to, trying not to wreck. Got to go pick up the rib from up here at the fucking job. She keeps flipping the fuck out on me for no reason. But, that's the Most High God. He going to do what he want to do. I think it's, no, not that one. What is it? Oh, there it is. 49. Right? Now, remember, Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33 says, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, right? Okay, well, it says down here in verse 26, And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood as with sweet wine. So during this during their enslavement, that's all these devils and the heathen nations are going to eat, because those are the elite at the top that eat human flesh and drink blood and worship a false god that cannot save. They're worshiping Satan. Okay? How is that going to work? That doesn't make any sense, but that's what they do. They're idiots, right? They deny the power of the Most High God, but they access the power of the Most High upon the left-hand side, right? Pass the duchy upon the left arm side, right? And that's what the fuck they're doing. And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood as with sweet wine, right? Adrenochrome, right? And they eat human flesh, right? King Charles eats it. Donald Trump eats it, right? Henry Kissinger ate the shit, right? This motherfucker had over 15 heart surgeries. Where the fuck was he getting all these hearts from? Everybody in the goddamn world that needs a heart transplant or a liver transplant got to wait in the fucking line. These motherfuckers get first dibs. See? And all flesh shall know that I, the Lord, am thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. Now remember, Jacob's name was changed, surnamed Israel, by the Most High God himself, right? Like it says in Genesis chapter 35, verse 9 and through 11. But anyway, I just wanted to, touch base with y'all, let y'all know, hey, look, this is what I found. just more shameful spewing upon the glory of these Edomite Caucasian devils, right? All praises to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Yahweh Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for pushing 100% truth who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect that have been scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom.